We are called the lucky country for a reason.
Yes.
Like you go to London, for example, it's impossible to live there. It's so super expensive. I went to London, came back here to Sydney, and Sydney looks very, very undervalued. So people here go, oh yes, Sydney's very, very expensive. And even I think it's very expensive, right? But you go to these other mature markets across the world, Sydney is undervalued. And we're seeing it now with these Chinese people coming over here, snapping up properties. Toorak in Melbourne is the most high-end suburb in Melbourne, right? 100% of the sales in the last 2-3 months have been from Chinese wealthy buyers.
Yeah, right.
And they pay cash because they're looking at prices in Shanghai going, fuck this, we'll just go to, there's more capital growth in Australia because they can see the value.
Yeah.
But we can't see it because we're so isolated here, and this is where the opportunity is. And if you own a business or if you've got a good income, and I'm not just saying this because I'm trying to spruik property, but what I'm trying to tell people is you are sitting on a gold mine here for the next 10, 20, 30 years. That time's going to pass anyway.
Take action now.
Do it.
Yeah. Zah Azmi, my friend, very, very excited to have you on today. Actually, it's giving me a few little butterflies because we go way back. Way back. You've seen some things, I've seen some things. We met in high school, and I remember you being this kid that was just head screwed on. You had charisma. I was like, this guy's going somewhere. And watching your journey since high school, after high school, and all that you've achieved, I've just been really super impressed with everything you've done. And I've been lucky enough to have worked with you when I started out on my property investment journey. So without these two guys, but beside me, I would never have gone there. So I remember Zah reaching out to me once saying, I've got this stock in Queensland. Let me show you it, Lisa. It's right up your alley. And I thought, I don't know about this, blah, blah, blah. And so he said, talk to Ryan, get his advice, and, I'm sure he'll agree this is a good option for you. And I was like, okay. So I spoke to Ryan, and Ryan went, yes, you need to do this. So thank you to you two guys. But look, I just wanted to give you a bit of an intro. You've been in business 15 years, in various businesses. You've acquired a lot of businesses. You've started up businesses. You've now become a developer. You have recently released a book, which is amazing, which we want to talk more about. And I also saw you were on the Mark Boris podcast. So huge profile. Did I miss anything in all of that?
Well, there's some things that have sort of happened in between those 15 years, right? Yeah. But first of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here. And look, we've enjoyed every moment working with you too.
Yeah.
And it's an honour to be on your podcast. So thank you. Look, in terms of the way my business career has panned out, it's sort of not a straightforward journey. And anyone in business would know that it's got its fair share of ups and downs.
Exactly.
And especially in the first, I would say 10 years, like you just eat shit for so long.
It's so true.
And it's been an incredible journey. Like I wouldn't change it for a thing. Look, I think I could have done things a lot better, but hey, that's the value that I sort of bring to the marketplace now. So I can sort of help people not make the mistakes that I did. And unfortunately, as human beings, we actually learn from pain and our own mistakes. So we do see clients make the same mistakes because of emotions and all of that sort of thing. But the best thing that we can do is sort of guide them in a way where, look, we've been there, we've done it, we know what works, we know what doesn't. I'm still learning as well. We're all trying to grow, just like you guys are trying to grow your business as well. We're always trying to take things to the next level. But it's about being surrounded by the right people, connecting with the right people. And it's sort of been, when you think about it, easier than ever. Now with podcasts like this, with education being so accessible, it's a great time to be alive.
Yeah, beautifully said. And you said being around the right people, and that's something we talk about a lot, about having the right connections, having the right people in your corner. When I started this intro, I did talk about the fact that I probably wouldn't be where I know I wouldn't be where I am without your help. So who's that been for you in your journey, the right people? You
know what's funny? I talk to people all the time about I wish I had a Zah 10 years ago. Yeah. And I think the reason why I made so many mistakes is because I tried to do it on my own. And the mistakes aren't really, in hindsight, they're not really that bad, right? Because you've we learn from them and we grow and we learn to do things better. The issue is it takes longer.
Exactly.
So something that's taken me, say, 15 years to build can probably take someone 5 to 10 years if they don't go through those same mistakes. But like I said, 15 years ago, we never had podcasts. We didn't have as much content available to us on the internet. You sort of had to get buried into books, and then what books do you read, because there's so many out there. It was harder for us, and right now there's this big debate on the boomers versus the millennials and the Gen Zs and all of that sort of thing. Look, there's good and bad to take away from it. If you look at the baby boomers, they didn't even have internet, right? And now we have the opportunity to create our own sort of radio show, for example, or radio channel. And think about it, if you spoke to your mum and dad when you were a kid and said, "Oh, would you ever start a radio channel?" They'd just laugh at you, you know what I mean? So we've got these opportunities in front of us, and I think millennials and Gen Zs, because they've been born into, I guess, I don't want to say an easy life, but more technology and all of that sort of thing, they don't appreciate it as much as, I guess, us older millennials, where we've experienced not having an iPhone, right? So it's an amazing time at the moment, and even though interest rates are high, cost of living pressures are getting to a lot of people, but the opportunity to grow and learn more has never ever been better.
Exactly. And I think that's beautifully said, but I think the big thing is people often think you have to have like a leg up or a handout to get somewhere in the business world or the property world, and you need to have parents who are giving you a lot of money to start up, etc., etc. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you made your wealth on your own. You started with minimal.
Yeah, so it started with nothing really, and my parents, they provided me a great life, middle class life here on the Central Coast, and I'm super appreciative of that, and they gave me plenty of love and all of that sort of thing, but there was not $1 that came with it. I married into a family which is quite similar as well, so we didn't really have that start, which I think, looking back, is probably the best thing that's ever happened to me, because I see a lot of these people get handouts or they feel entitled to a handout. But the thing is, they don't build that muscle to grow. And that's the issue with the next generation. It's not the fact that they can't get into the property market or they don't have any money to start. It's the fact that they're not building the skill set and that muscle and that hunger and that drive to make it work. And this is why I really connect well with small business owners like yourselves, because your future is in your own hands. And we live in a country where we're super entitled. Like, I've just got back from a European holiday, and you go to some of these countries, Paris, London, Dubai, Spain, all of these places, you have to be self-sufficient. You've got no choice, right? Where we're in Australia, I believe we've lived in a bull run for 30, 40 years. And we've had it really, really good.
Really?
And this is the reason why millennials and Gen Zs are blowing up, right? Because they're going, oh, well, the baby boomers had it better. And it's the truth, they did, right? But in actual fact, every mature market in the world goes through this transition where, the rich get richer and the poorer get poorer. The thing is, a lot of things that we bitch and complain about are out of our control. Interest rates, cost of living pressures, petrol prices, all of these things we whinge and complain about, we have no control over. But what do we have control over? What we do with our time, the skill sets we can acquire, the relationships that we can build, the value we can bring to the marketplace. And I think people forget about that, because the easier option would be
sit and complain.
Let's sit and complain. Let's act entitled, and I get a lot of hate, right, for the content that I put out there, and it comes with the territory. But the thing is, don't blame me. You know what I mean?
Right. I didn't do this.
It's not my fault, right? It's not my fault.
Out.
Property prices are so expensive. It's not my fault. Sydney's unaffordable now. But what can we do in our control? We can invest in other markets. We can go out and earn more money. We can start a podcast like this. There are things that you can do.
That's right.
It's not going to make you a millionaire overnight, but it's going to help the cause, and you'll have that compounded effect over time.
Yeah.
And I think what you hit hit the nail on the head with before is it is that muscle. You know what I'm saying? Like, I came from similar places to you guys growing up. Probably did okay, but I was weak-minded. And I think when you're weak-minded and you're not resourceful and you're not using what's at you like you said, even books, right? Even picking up books, learning about how to think or how to operate or how to invest in property or anything like that. You can't kind of progress. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you can have everything thrown at you, but you'll lose all the money. You'll lose all the wealth. I think it's the thing that you can do is be resourceful and use what you can. Use mentors, use podcasts. There's everything going out on podcasts for no money at all through YouTube. So I think it is that muscle. It's that mindset. It's just going, well, I'll use what I can to create a better life, to get out of this ditch. So,
well, I think that's one of the biggest things we talk about. It's definitely one of my values, which is having resilience. And this is what we're talking about, have an internal locus of control. And they're the two biggest things that I look at in myself and then in other people that are progressing, where I see those same traits each and every time, because we're all going to get hit with something in life multiple times. But as you delve into business, you're going to get hit even harder again and again and again and again. You're going to have setbacks. We've had them in our time together, which we've talked openly about. But because we have this mindset, because we've been, when we were growing up, we had a bit of a tough life and we had to make ourselves get to where we are right now. We've built the muscle or the resilience, and we've had that internal locus of control, which is the future, or the future is in my own hands.
Yeah.
And I think that's critical in business. It's critical in property investment. It's critical in property development, because you're going to get hit. And you've been hit. You said you had hits and you climbed back up.
I'm still getting hits today.
Yeah.
Right? So people...
I'll hit 10 minutes. I'm feeling it, man. I'm regularly getting punched.
But you showed up. You could have cancelled.
It's exactly that.
That's right.
It's the muscle to go, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay because I'm going over here.
Yeah.
But some just go, I got hit and I'm just going to crawl in.
Yeah.
And you can endure the pain now, right? And now you can deal with bigger problems, right? You can get hit harder in the face in the future.
Yeah.
And I think it's like what you were saying, Ryan, if everything's given to you, like, you sort of don't learn much, right? And that's why what is the percentage of lottery winners, they lose their fortune.
100%.
Like, most of them do, because they don't know how to handle the money, right? Whereas I think if you start out hungry, you start out with nothing, it gives you this, you're forced to manage yourself a lot better, and you've got to, in the early stages, it is quite difficult, right? So my first business failure was hard because I lost $500,000, which was my life savings. And, when you go into business, you expect it to actually succeed. And that happened again and again and again over time. And for a period of 10 years, like, it took me a really long time to find my feet. And, there were times where I was borderline depressed because I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to make this work. Like, there were so many, like, I've never really had a job before, but there were times where I thought, fuck, maybe I'll just get a job. Like, it's so much easier. And my wife never let me, because my wife was, she was in corporate for a long time. And she said to me, Zah, I'm not letting you get a job because you're going to bash your boss. I know what you're like, right? Like, you're just going to lose it, and you're just not going to deal with it well. And I was like,
You're right.
We fought about it. We actually fought about it, because I actually wanted to just get that stability. And she goes, no, go out to the marketplace and figure this shit out.
Yeah.
And, there was more failures after that. And I think because I kept losing a lot of my money and going to zero, I had no choice but to make it work. There was literally no choice. I can't call mum and dad and say, hey, give me $100,000. I've just lost 100, right? I can't call my in-laws and do that. So I had no choice. And there were many years where I went without any pay. I paid everyone else first. And it was hard. I had to sell property at the time because just to plug holes. It was a very, very tough time of my life. And I sort of really don't hope my son has to go through that either, right? But at the same time, I'm like, oh, maybe
you should.
Yeah, like, just take shit away from me. You know what I mean?
Can I ask a question? What, as comfortable as you are, what happened in that time? Like, what do you think created that loss of money, the hardship? Like, I think there's viewers definitely and listeners right now that are going, well, what happened? Like, and then obviously getting to how do we mitigate it, but what caused that decade of, it's ironic that the next podcast we're going to do, which with Justin, he went through a similar thing. Right? Yep. I've been through loss as well, financial loss and hard times. And you're like, is it really this bad? Is there any other blessings? So I'm interested to hear what was it? Like what?
Yeah, so it was a combination of probably bad business ideas and planning, but also being surrounded by the wrong people. So my 20s was, predominantly spent in King's Cross in the nightclub industry. And, like you're hanging around a lot of plastic gangsters who, think they're the toughest people in the world, and they're actually quite small-minded. And everyone just
Are
rips
you
off
scared
each
right
other.
now?
They're actually, they're very difficult to do business with. Generally speaking, I met some incredible people, and I still hold some great relationships with those guys. But the majority of people that are in that industry, they're under the influence of drugs and all of that sort of thing. And it was a good 10 years in King's Cross. So naturally, I started doing business with those people, and you get done over a lot, right? So the environment is really important. And I was in the wrong environment. And it wasn't until I hit, say, 30 years old, I'm turning 40 next month, right? So it was 10 years ago, where I started going, okay, well, I need to start investing in myself more, surround myself with some better people. And even on that journey, Ryan, like that was really hard, right? Like I started doing different business ventures with, I guess, people outside of that circle. I was searching for a mentor. I was searching for a great business partner. And then what I found was, compared to working on the street, you go to these corporate organizations, instead of stabbing you in the back, they stab you from the front because they know they can get away with it, right? And if you go and put it on them, the problem is they'll go to a lawyer straight away. So I had a really bad experience just trying to, I guess, legitimize myself, getting out of that circle. And then, business venture after business venture, what really, I guess, if I can take responsibility from it, was that the skill set that I was bringing was really just money. So there was no real skill set. And I think the biggest thing I can take away from it, if I was to advise the 20-year-old Zah again, is invest in yourself to get a skill set that's so valuable in the marketplace that it doesn't actually require money, and people will then be drawn to you. And now I guess my skill set and value to the marketplace is that experience. Hence the reason why you guys have got me on the podcast, right? So I can tell you that story. But if I could turn back time, it'd be, becoming an accountant, for example. So like, I looked at all of those things, but I still thought, I just can't do it. Like I just didn't have the brain for it. I enrolled into an accounting course and just went, I did like an hour of it and went, fuck this, I'm not doing it no more.
I do it every day.
I enrolled in an apprenticeship to become a builder, and I went, fuck, I can't do this. I was on a construction site at 18, being a brickies labourer. I'm like, I can't do this for another 4 years, right? Now I hire those people, right? But it's taken me a long time to get to that point. So I think the important takeaway from it is invest in yourself early instead of invest in businesses.
100%.
Right? Invest in yourself before you invest in property.
Absolutely. Because just to go on what you said, and sorry to keep jumping in, but the accounting, tax, financial planning, all this sort of stuff, right? I had all those credentials, and I was 27. I've told you the story. And I've definitely told you the story multiple times, Lise. I had it all. I had all the papers, right? The papers did nothing because I didn't have the mind for it, the mindset to be able to think bigger and get other people to do things that you're not passionate about, et cetera, et cetera. So that working on yourself piece is kind of everything, because then it opens up Pandora's box on how you work. So I think that's really, really important to note. Even if you do get the tickets, you become the builder, for our guys in Ollie Builder, or you become the accountant, or even become the property advisor buyer's agent. If you don't have that mentality, that muscle, that thing that you worked on and the lights that you shed on it, especially the guys that come from the entitled past, that kind of have everything, but really deep down, they got nothing. I think that's critical, mate.
Yeah, so the skill set that you then, or the value that you bring to the marketplace then, is not just capital, like these guys that have been given something, right? 100%. And that's the way I was thinking. I thought, okay, if I accumulate some capital, I'll just dump it into a business and then I'll see how it goes. But really, at the end of the day, there are people out there that prey on people like that, right? And they just take the money.
Corporates too, like
exactly.
you said before.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So if you have that valuable skill set to bring to the table, it doesn't matter about money anymore, because people will then think twice about fucking you over.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think what you just said then, like, even if you've got the paper, right? So, sorry, even if you don't have the paper. So there's people out there that didn't get the handout, didn't get the paper, don't know what their future is. You work on yourself first still, right? You can get the paper later. Like, I speak from experience there. I didn't get the paper. I didn't follow the teacher's advice, which was go straight to uni and do a Bachelor of Arts. Like, what's that going to get me?
I got told the same thing.
Yeah, I'm like, why would I do that? I want to go out there and I want to find my skill set, work on myself, find my place in this world, and then I'll do the paper later. And I've done it now. The MBA is there, right? That helped me on my journey. But in the early days, I was like, well, what is it that I've got to offer? And you said the word value. Like, people don't want everything. They need you for your value. So it's about knowing what that is. So in saying that, then, how did you get to that place where you went, property is it? Like, what turned you into that journey of property investment?
Yeah,
knowing that's where your value really lies.
So property's always been a big thing for me because my parents I actually have to thank for they invested in a couple of properties on the Central Coast alongside their home. And they said to me, they goes, back in, I think it was 2008, was the first time I bought something. And they said, Zah, you should invest in a property, like, or buy a home, right? I did, and at the time I was working in King's Cross. I was in Sydney. Sydney was quite expensive back then as well, and I couldn't afford it. And they said, okay, well, why don't you buy something up the road? And I worked 3 jobs at the same time. I had to struggle to get 70 grand together for this $340,000 property in a suburb called Carryong, which I'm sure you guys know.
Carryong.
And I still own that property today.
Yeah, wow.
And
it'd be worth a lot more than 340,000.
yeah, we got it valued at 1.2.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's sort of, I think it's only renting for like $600 a week, but look, it's been a great investment. It gave me a good launching pad. I bought it post GFC 2008. Didn't know what I was doing, and then as the GFC post period came. Property prices went through the roof because they cut rates, right, to stimulate the market. And I made 100 grand. And it was that first 12 months, I think it was 2009, where I was like, do you know how long it'll take me to save 100 grand? To save that initial $70,000 deposit and then just to make 100 grand that. And then I just got bitten by the bug. And I thought, every time I've got some spare cash, I'm going to tip it into property. And then I got to about 3 properties, right? And I thought, okay, now it's time to sort of get into business. And I opened up, alongside a business partner, a nightclub in Newcastle. It was called the Kensington because the building was the Kensington movie theatre. So we called it the Kensington. And I tipped in so much money there. The developers tipped in a lot, and my partner tipped in a lot. And then we got our liquor license revoked because of our associations with certain people in King's Cross. And that was something we couldn't control. And, at, I think I was 25, 26, to lose $500,000 in capital was a lot of money back then. It's still a lot of money now, right? And I was really fortunate that I had those 3 properties. And they sort of, I was able to lean back on them and sort of redraw equity and sort of start again. And if I didn't have them, I would be so far in the red, I'd have to start all over again, which I wouldn't have had a problem with. I would have done it, right? So I guess that was my first foray in small business and my first really big failure. And I was really fortunate that I had those properties that had grown in value in the background, which I thought, you know what? The great thing about property is that no one can really take it from you. You know what I mean? If you buy it on your own. So I continued to invest in property while still investing in businesses or in the businesses that I was in, because I knew that the property will always back me up. And it never failed me. When the market, if you buy in the right markets, right, and you buy the right assets, if it grows by 6, 7, 8% per annum, like, if your portfolio is worth $2-3 million, like you're backing yourself up. So it was a really good foundational piece to help me propel into other businesses moving forward. And I guess it made me more comfortable with the failures when they occurred, and there were plenty of failures
like a safety
moving
net
on.
Almost.
Exactly, something you could fall back on. It was still painful, but at least I wasn't going bankrupt, right? And then I thought, well, if property's never failed me, then I should probably look into it more, right? And I started a business, called Luxland Investments. And at first it was a business that was just a shelf company for a property development project, right? We did our first project up in Newcastle. And then we sold those villas, and we sold them to people that we knew. And those people said to me, Zah, how about you start a business recommending people how to buy property? Because I had already had that experience. And that's how Luxland was born. It was never really meant to be a consultant firm where we advise clients on it, but we were like, well, it works.
Yeah.
And it's a great business, and it delivers tremendous amounts of value to people because predominantly my clients sit in Sydney and they can't afford to buy in Sydney. So they need that education on what other markets to buy, and just like you guys did, right? So even the Central Coast is getting too expensive.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So we need to look at other markets and find out alternatives to get that exposure into the property market. So look, along the way before that, there were plenty of businesses that I got involved in. And I think the best thing I can take away from them all is that I got the experience on how to deal with people.
And so I love hearing that, because I think that's definitely in my sort of vocabulary when it comes to business. It's like you can have this big vision about what your business is going to be and what it's going to look like, but really it's about starting somewhere and continually progressing and gaining momentum and moving towards. You can have a vision, but we talk about enjoying the journey and, you know, finding your niche and finding your area and what do you really enjoy. So you went into that because you were passionate. You enjoyed it, and then you saw, hang on, I can make money out of this and I can help other people do this. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, so I guess, you know, it's a combo there, right? Like you can help people, you can make money, you can love what you do. And, you know, like for us, I never dreamed of even being in this position that I'm in now, right? And I'm so glad that I've gotten to this point. But all of those business ventures that I went through and all of the people that I had to deal with, good and bad, has led me to this point to make me realize this is where I should be.
Yeah.
And then it's now led me on to doing bigger projects now and moving into the development phase and the commercial phase, which I really do enjoy because it's a bit more B2B. And look, the beauty of the property industry is that it never stops. Like if you look at guys like Harry Triggerboff, for example, the guy's like 100 years old and he's still going. Do you know what I mean? But you look at, like I've got some clients who, I was with them on the weekend, professional football players. Like they're going to be done in 2 or 3 years. And they're only in their early 30s, right? So what I love about my industry is that you can continually to grow, and I can continue to be that example to my son and, you know, show him that hard work can really get you where you want to go, and, you know, anything's possible.
Yeah. So how are you going to handle the son having a lot of wealth behind him?
You know what? It's a challenging question.
It's a hard one.
Lisa, you know, because at the end of the day, you sort of don't want him to go through what you went through.
Exactly.
You know, like I struggled in school, and you know, I had a tough upbringing, and being sort of the only brown kid on the Central Coast back in the day where it was mainly Caucasian, you know, it was tough. Yeah. You know, do I want him to go through the same things that I went through? Probably not. He's going to live a very different life to sort of the way I got brought up, just like the way my dad and I lived very different lives as well. And the relationship that my grandfather had with my dad was very different. So I think we just got to adapt with the times and, you know, I guess limit, what we give them.
Yeah.
You know, like I think we're big on charities, you know, partnering with charities. We've got our own foundation, which is our own private family foundation. So I really want to instill into him
those
that
values.
We are a family that work towards giving back.
Yeah.
And I think we sort of don't do enough of it here in Australia because we live such a good life. We don't really see hardship. You know, like I did a CEO sleep out. Have you heard of the CEO sleep out? St. Vinny's. You know, it was a good cause. And, you know, we're listening to a lot of the homeless people there, and I was like, no disrespect for them, it's tough out there, but it's nothing compared to these third world countries.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And we have an incredible opportunity here and this is why I'm so passionate about people. Just stop bitching and moaning about your hard life here.
Yeah.
It is actually fucking very good. Yeah. The opportunity here is massive.
100%.
We are called the lucky country for a reason.
Yes.
Like you go to London, for example, it's impossible to live there. It's so super expensive. I went to London, came back here to Sydney, and Sydney looks very, very undervalued. So people here go, oh yes, Sydney's very, very expensive. And even I think it's very expensive, right? But you go to these other mature markets across the world, man, Sydney is undervalued. And we're seeing it now with these Chinese people coming over here, snapping up properties.
Yeah.
Like
Why wouldn't you?
Toorak in Melbourne is the most high-end suburb in Melbourne, right? 100% of the sales in the last 2-3 months have been from Chinese wealthy buyers.
Yeah, right.
And they pay cash, right? Because they're looking at prices in Shanghai going, fuck this, we'll just go to, there's more capital growth in Australia because they can see the value.
Yeah.
But we can't see it because we're so isolated here. And this is where the opportunity is. And if you own a business or if you've got a good income, and I'm not just saying this because I'm trying to spruik property, like regardless if you do a deal with me or not, it doesn't make a difference to me. I'm already rich, right? Like, it doesn't matter, right? But what I'm trying to tell people is you are sitting on a gold mine here for the next 10, 20, 30 years. That time's going to pass anyway.
Take action now.
Do it.
Yeah.
We just finished a video before you came, Zah, as well, and the exact thing we were saying, like as an announcement, is that we're much more in the property development space right now. We said we don't forget about business owners. We are here to serve business owners, but the thing is, and I love what you've just said, is that if we can have business and create business similar to what you've done with purpose, that we can have it profitable enough to be able to purchase property, piggyback property after property and create good wealth there. Like you said, if the business, which is the highest risk asset you can possibly have, if that goes, you've got this portfolio, you've got this tangible wealth, you've built it up. And I think that's what so many business owners are missing, which you've really caught on to. We've really caught on to with the niches that we're offering and the advisory we're giving to clients, is that make your business purposeful for something, because then it becomes a protected bet. You know, in 10 years, when the whole economy changes or the markets change and you've got a portfolio there, you're safeguarded. You've got wealth.
And look, Ryan, that's a good point. And the issue we've got in 10 years' time with land not coming back in pricing and yields starting to sort of drop with housing, the only property investments people will be able to make are apartments. So this is where the opportunity is to get a slice of Australian land, which is so in demand throughout the whole world, right? And now's the time. If you look at Melbourne, for example, doing house and land down there is just too expensive. Sydney's obviously out of this world. And then you've got now Brisbane, which is slowly slipping away. So, like we only really try and target Brisbane, and so New South Wales, say Greater Sydney and Melbourne. If that's all going to be gone, we don't really want to go to Perth or Adelaide or Hobart or anything like that, right? And people will still flock there as investments. But the wealthy people only really invest in Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne. That's where the wealthy people invest. And I'm starting to see it now where the super wealthy actually only invest in apartments. Why? Because they can go into those locations that are 10 out of 10, right? So you've got to follow what the wealthy people are doing. And this is
starting out. If you're starting out, you'd recommend going into those locations too.
Of course, and this is where the opportunity is with, I guess, Southeast Queensland, right? Which you guys are in that market and you've done very well. Is that you can still get house and land for 750 grand, 30 minutes from the CBD. Like that's not going to last long.
No.
And people look at that and they go, "Oh, but that's expensive. It used to be 300 grand." Yeah, sure. Like. But in 10, 15, 20 years, you're going to look back and go, fuck, I wish I actually bought that land because now I'm cornered into buying an apartment, which it might not have the same levels of growth and demand, right? So right now the yields are still holding up well. And that's the education we're trying to put out to people and obviously business owners and high income earners as well, because they're paying so much tax. So going back to what you said, Ryan, these people that have this high risk asset as a business, right? They're making, let's call it $1 million a year. Really, it's fucking 500 grand, right? Because it's so high, it's solely highly taxed.
Yeah, and it might not be there tomorrow. Like I've seen time and time and time again, it doesn't matter how good they are or how meticulous they are or processed they are or whatever, it could be gone like that. That's
the
just
market
how
can
it
change. COVID can hit.
It can
like
hit,
things can happen.
That killed businesses. Like good mature businesses were killed through
Exactly.
COVID.
Exactly.
And like you said, if you're going to have peaks and troughs of your business, you're going to have hardship in your business, or one day you're going to have no business, invest in something that's property, because it's that tangible. It's that sure bet.
And we're only saying this because we believe in it, because we've done it, right?
Well,
we're not doing it because
yeah.
we're trying to sell it. We're not trying to sell properties. I mean, obviously you are, but you don't care. Like, you don't need people to be, we don't need to be spruiking it out in a sales way, but we're saying it because we've done it and we're passionate about it and we see it work, right? Time and time
Like
again.
Zah said, like hopefully you don't mind, being super transparent. Like the best thing opening for the business, like I say, is bring you on, right? But to be able to bring you on, to be able to continue to build a business, property was there to allow that.
Exactly.
You saw that.
Exactly.
journey,
You
right?
had to
That's being
leverage
super
that.
trans. I
Yeah.
had to leverage it, right?
Yeah.
I had to do it.
I sent him broke.
She sent me broke, right? That's why my suit jacket just got a rip in it. But the point is, it was a good investment that I made, because back to our mindset thing, we were same mind, very similar values. It was all worth it, right? But yeah, property gave me that
The
opportunity.
ability. All right, we've got to wrap this up, which is unfortunate because this is gold, but leave us with your parting advice. Like, if you had to talk to the people listening and get them to find the courage or have the ability to get into the property world or build the wealth that they've already got, what would you say?
Well, I guess there's three parts to that, right? The first thing, and we've covered this, is invest in yourself, right? That's the first thing. And no one ever told me to invest in myself. They always said, invest in property, invest in business. And then that's what I did. And I sort of fall and fell flat on my face. So invest in yourself. That doesn't mean go and get a uni degree or anything like that. You know, I believe university is the biggest scam in the world.
Think and Grow Rich was the best investment I ever made. $20,
$19
on sale.
Yeah, and that is a great investment. It's one of the great books, right?
Great books, mate.
Yeah, and you know, do stuff like that. Read one book a week. Like, it's not really that hard, you know. Connect with people like us through our podcasts and all of that sort of thing. That's investing in yourself. Consume the right information.
Correct.
Throughout my 20s, I didn't have that. Right, I was surrounded by idiots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
Totally.
So you can actually surround yourself with really good people without actually meeting them because of stuff like this, right? So invest in yourself. Second of all, invest in your business or your career. Your business and your career is probably going to give you the highest return on investment because you're trading your time, right? You want to yield as much as you can from that. So get your business making millions of dollars. If your career is not going to do that, start a business, right? Because once you've invested in yourself, you'll have the skill set to actually run the business and be prepared for the failures, right? But just get back up again.
Yeah.
It's gonna be okay. The last thing is get into the real estate market, right?
100%.
And like buy land if you can. And right now, we've probably got a 2 or 3 year window where we can still do it in these great major cities. After that, you're going to be buying apartments. And as much as we bitch and moan about it, it's not my fucking fault. Like it's the market.
It's a video guy as well.
F you. That was a totally book. F you.
That's a good book. Tell us about the book. Tell us about the book.
Well, the book, the reason why it's called FU Property is because we had 42 publishers in Australia to knock it back, and we had Forbes USA pick it up, and they loved it, right? And we've got another one coming out probably next year, so we're working on it at the moment. But look, it's just a book about a little bit about my story. We covered a little bit of it today, but it's really just showing people it is possible to build a multi-million-dollar property portfolio without being too intimidating, right? Chip away at it, do it for 10 years, one property a year. It's not that hard.
Love it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. You just shared everything and we really appreciate it. You're a legend.
Pleasure. Thank you.
You're a good man.
Tell me the